showing up again. Would you like to guess who our guest speaker is for tonight? Does anyone know? Taya, who is it? You don't know. Anyone else? Kevin who? Kevin Rife.
Wow.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Kevin Rife. You may know him as the guy who sits in the very front of the auditorium. Wonderful servant here at Central. He plays an important role in making sure that things get scheduled. Men serve, men speak, do the announcements, things like that. I'm thankful that he's here tonight. He has a great background, great perspective. Um, Before we get into that, a few announcements. This upcoming Sunday is the first Sunday, so we don't have anything. But we do have area wide on Monday. Last area wide of the summer. We're going to Eastside in Midwest City. Kyle Humphrey is going to speak to us. He's youth minister there now. And we're going to leave, I think on the bulletin I said 6:30. So check me on that on the bulletin if you guys know what the bulletin is or even how to find it. But 6:30 we'll probably be leaving on Monday. Tuesday will be our last Talk About It Tuesday of the summer. And then Wednesday we'll have normal class. The week after that, isn't it your guys' first week of school? August 12th. For most of you guys, more begins on August 12th. That's like next, not this upcoming week, but the week after that. So very excited for you. Everyone smile because school is starting and summer is over. Everyone smile. I'm excited. It means my workload dies down. So you guys go back to school all you want. I'm fine with it. Thankful that you guys are here tonight. Excited about the wisdom and the insights about personal faith that Mr. Kevin has to share with us tonight to kind of give you a little synopsis of what we've been doing. And anyone who hasn't been here, I think everyone's kind of been here, but we're continuing our case studies in personal faith as we round off our year 2 of personal faith. And we're interviewing members from the congregation, asking them about their life, allowing them to share their life and their journey with God with us so that you guys, as you think about the next phase of life that you are going to be going into, young adulthood, in the next few years, the next few weeks for some of you, you can have some tools, you can have some resources and members here at Central to be mentors, to be menteed from, so you know what it's like to remain faithful, how to remain faithful, what to do when you encounter different aspects of life, what to do when you think about a career, when you think about having a family and things like that. So super excited for Kevin tonight. So without further ado, we can go ahead and begin. I want to ask you, though, before we get into some of the questions that we have prepared, I want you, Mr. Kevin, to just tell us about who you are.
Right.
Where'd you grow up? What did you do? Your life. Just give us the brief synopsis of who Kevin Rife is.
All right. Well, first I want to thank you guys for having me and allowing me to come in here. And I'll just say what a great opportunity it is for you guys to be able to sit down and talk to people and hear their story. But not only that, ask questions in that. And not only that, in the future, when maybe you need something or you have questions or concerns other than your parents, right? There's other people that you can come to that can help you through it. So, wow, this is just a great thing, and I'm glad you guys are doing it. But anyway, yes, I am Kevin Rife, and my wife, if you guys been here since you were born, she probably taught you as 1-year-olds. Pam is right now teaching 1-year-olds on Wednesday nights, and her mom taught 1-year-olds for about 50 years, so before she passed. So anyway, they've been doing that for a while. She wishes she could be here, but she's in there. So anyway, I'm originally from Michigan, so I grew up in what they call the Mitten State, right? If you look at it, but the southern part of Michigan, and that's farm country. So I grew up in and around farms. And when I was your age this time of year, I was putting up hay or working in the feed mills or doing something. So I was doing those kind of things. And then, unfortunately, didn't know of the Lord's church. And honestly, I didn't hear of the Church of Christ until 1997. So that tells you I was 35 years old. So, things that you guys hear and see and hear and being around it, I would say you're fortunate because it's not that way all over America. Southern part of this nation, Church of Christ is large. As you go north, there's a few, but not as many. So, and that's again, shame on all of us because we gotta get that pushed up and out. But so I was born and raised in Michigan. I left Michigan, when I graduated high school, I joined the United States Air Force when I was 17. So my birthday's in September. I joined in August. I was still 17. So anyway, I served. The plan was 4 years, and I was going to get out and go to Denver, Colorado, and work for American Airlines. Right.
Mm.
So I was going to use the Air Force to learn the trade and how to work on aircraft, how to do that stuff, and then go do that. And I ended up staying. I did 20 years in the Air Force and retired out of there. And then after that, I went to work for Northrop Grumman, who builds, I'll call it the nation's bomber factory now. They built the B-2 stealth bomber, and they're building the B-21, which is, Air Force called it B-21 because it's the first bomber of the 21st century, right? So they're building that now, and this is out in Palmdale, California, and they flight test at Edwards Air Force Base, which is out there just probably 30 miles from there. So anyway, that's kind of what I did in the Air Force. I was a maintainer, so it means you perform maintenance on the aircraft, kept them so they could fly, fight, and win. And then we would, after I retired, I went to work for Northrop, and again, it's supporting the B-2. So I was doing logistics management, and then I was doing program management for the last probably 20 years I was there. So anyway, great career, but it was all because I chose to join the Air Force, and I thought to travel and go see things and it'd be exciting, but it ended up being kind of the way of life.
Mm.
So what I did find, and you'll probably talk about it a little bit, but with the military is I was a athlete, played basketball, football, baseball, and I played American Legion baseball right up until the weekend I left and went to the Air Force. But it was a team, so I was kind of used to being on teams, playing on teams, and when you join the military, that's exactly what you're getting into. It's a large team. Everybody has a job to do on that team and so on. So whether you're in the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, Space Force now, Coast Guard, whatever it is, it's a joint team, right, that's representing America, but it's out there kind of being the power tool that we have. So, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, but I would tell you, for me, it helped me. I had no idea. I was 17, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to stay and be a farm boy for, the rest of my life. So I said, if I'm going to go, I got to go now. So anyway, I'm a middle child of, there's 6 now. There was 5 of us originally, and we found out my dad had another daughter that we didn't know about and didn't show up for probably 30 years after. So that was something that kind of shocked us. But again, I and my family lived, I'll just say, in the standards of the world, right? So we weren't Christians. We didn't go to church. We didn't do those things, right? So that's how I started my first 35 years of my life. I lived against the world standards, and I tried to be successful, doing the things they'd have you do, right? So anyway, that's me. I'm in a nutshell.
That sounds like a very, very fascinating life. Thankful that you have made your way down to Oklahoma so that we can know you, that you can be a part of this, the congregation here at Central. And this is a question, this first one that I'll ask you, that I've asked every single interviewee that we have come, because I think it's such a profound question to ask. And while Scripture presents and teaches us that the mode of how this happens and how it comes about in your life is exactly the same, everyone's story is a little bit different. Their circumstances and what surround that is very different. So most of the people that we have had come talk to us, with the exception of a few, were raised in the church. Yeah. And this is why I wanted to bring you in. One of the reasons is because I know that your perspective is different. So I want to ask you this question. How did you become a Christian? So talk to us what that looked like. You said 35 was when you realized about the Church of Christ. You had not heard of it until then. So tell us what that looked like.
So the reason I say at 35, that's when I met my lovely bride, right? So she was a member of the Lord's church. And I met her, so you ladies listen up, because your parents and a lot of the folks will tell you, we don't want you dating or marrying these non-Christian men, right? And there's a reason, right? There's the chance that they could pull you away. But the story I have is just the opposite. I had no knowledge of it at all. And then I had this fine woman who's the kindest, person I've met, right? That just showed me the example and started bringing me, and I started coming, right? So in 1997, that's when I meet Mark in 98, right? So anyway, we're both kind of the same. We're coming together, and we're all coming to the church. But I I meet this lady. She brings me here. We start doing that. Then we get married. And then once we get married, I'm still in the Air Force, right? So I didn't retire until 2000. Well, in 1998, I was gone 272 days. 1999, I was gone 327 days. So I wasn't at church much. I'd come when I was here and I was listening, and I even played softball with, we had a softball team then. So I met with, the Jeff Arvins and Paul Arvins and Dan Aycock and all those guys. So they were just good examples for us. And that's when I started going, wow, there's something to this, right? So anyway, in 2001, I'm finally retired from the Air Force. I'm here. I'm coming all the time. I'm opening the Bible. I'm reading it. And that's when I studied and said, look, you've got to obey the gospel, right? And Tommy was our preacher then. And I came forward, and Tommy baptized me in 2001. So I became a Christian in 2001.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So if you think about it, now I'm at 38 years old, right? Now I tell you the story only because my father-in-law, Ron, Pam's dad, same thing, age 38. So he was a non-Christian. His wife was coming to church and all of that, and was the example for the family. When Pam's born, they start coming all the time, and Ron starts coming and all that. Next thing you know, but it's kind of ironic, right, how it all works. And I will tell you, I'll have a homework assignment for all of you, but there was a song that came out when Pam and I were getting together there, and Tracy Bird wrote it, and it said, what was it? The creator of the stars or maker of the stars, right? But what it talks about is someone had a hand in it, me finding you, right? And when you're thinking about those terms, it lets you know that, you can go out and search on your own, but God is working with the Holy Spirit and all those things in the background all the time. So sometimes I wouldn't be here without meeting Pam, and Pam, I would say, taking that chance and being with me and getting married and doing all of that, right? So I tell you that just so you know that sometimes it is a little strange. It's not maybe what we as parents or whatever would want for our daughters or our sons, but sometimes it works out. It brings that family in, and then it can bring in other families, right? So anyway, somebody's got a hand in it. Is all I
Yeah,
can tell
very
you.
unique story. Thank you for sharing. And I definitely think it is quite a testament to God's providence
It is.
to know that, you could live basically almost half of your life without knowing, and then just by chance. And I think that's God's providence.
Yep.
He introduced Pam into your life, and because of that, now you've been a faithful member of the Lord's church, and you get to be here and share your that faith journey as an adult, and talk about how there's different we'll get to some of the struggles and stuff in a minute. But thank you so much for sharing about that. I really appreciate the honesty and just the uniqueness, and just quite the testament to God's power and how He can just work in your life. So we kind of already talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to ask if there was anything else you wanted to share about your military career, because this is perhaps another reason why I wanted to bring you in, because some of the kids, I don't know, might be thinking about, well, is the military something that I have in my future? Right. So give us maybe a little bit more about that, and maybe talk about some pros, or maybe even talk about some cons, about advice thinking about if you are looking at remaining faithful for the rest of your life, which is what we want for the kids. Yep. That's the goal. Is going into the military going to be too difficult, or does it provide opportunities for you to share your faith?
Okay. Well, yeah. And the first thing I would always ask somebody, right, is before you make a decision to go in and which branch of service to go in, what do you want out of it when you step out, right? Is it a career like I had 20 years, or was it like my original plan, do 4 years, get out, and then learn a trade or something like that? The other thing is you can go to college, and they're paying for your college while you're in, right? So if you're in a family like I was, where I was a middle child, my dad was a machinist, tool and die maker, didn't have enough money to send 5, 6 kids to college. College was out, so the Air Force was definitely a way to go to school, but also to learn a trade, right? So that's how I looked at it. Now, there are people that have, like my dad was a Marine. A couple of my uncles were Marines, right? So how do they look at the Air Force? Totally different, right? They're like, whatever that is. But and it's the same thing, as we all know, the Army or whoever it is. But that can lead into it, right? And it's a family thing. But what I will say, as a Christian, depending on where you go, right? Because there are when you get overseas, and let's say Church of Christ you're trying to get into, it may only be 4 or 5 people on the base that do it. So it won't really be a church. It'll be, or a setting like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to church, it's going to be 4 to maybe 20 people, but you're just getting together somewhere and you're studying and you're doing that, right? So what you might not have are a set of elders and deacons and all of the established church or something, but you have a group of Christians who come together as the church and that can study and still take part in the Lord's Supper and do those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you should be able to find that about wherever you go, but there are going to be times when you may be the only one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but you're still God's example to everybody else that's there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know you know that at school and all of that, because as you get older, you're seeing in high school, you have certain groups that are Christians and that, and then a bunch of them that are not. Well, military is going to be made up the same way. A bunch of them that are not, and a few that are. And then your job is to be that light. And I tell you, but when people leave home and get away, they become, I will say, susceptible to listen about God and all of this because they're alone. They need something. They feel, I'm not going to say lost, but they feel alone. So that was the same way. When I left for basic training, I got there, it was 50 people, 50 of us. I didn't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I left there and went to tech schools where you learn your trade. I didn't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
See, left there and they sent me to the Philippines for 2 years. 17,000 miles away or whatever it is. I didn't know anybody, right? So it's part of that, but also what that does is it helps you create friends. You get to be friends with these because they're all going through the same thing, and you become close. And that's what I like about the military, and I've told people that, is that you're going to learn a profession, right? And you're going to learn a trade, and you're going to work with some of the smartest minds and people with a servant attitude, right? Because that's what it is. So the Air Force had core values, right? 3 of them, they went integrity first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Service before self, and excellence in all you do. So think about that as a Christian. How close does that align with the values you have, right? Service before self. Lord, to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And the second one is love your neighbor as yourself or your brother. It's the same thing. Service, so others are before you and you're serving them. And it's the same thing here in the church. We're serving each other. We're serving our community and all of that, right? So it does align in that way. What makes it hard is you go and you're away from family. So I was born and raised in Michigan. I haven't lived in Michigan again.
Mm-hmm.
So August of 1980, and here we are 45 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Oklahoma longer than any place I've been, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is home. You guys are my family. This is what the church is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So we grab and we embrace each other. You guys coming from Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just haven't been here long, but we're wrapping our arms around you. It's the same thing. So, but the military is, I will say, exactly the same way. What makes it hard is separation, being gone, and then, oh, by the way, combat, right? You get into war, you do those things. Those things will test anybody, right? Man, woman, whoever it is. So, but it's still, in my mind, if I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of countries, when you get out of high school, you serve 2 years in their military, right? And the reason they do that is first service, but the second part of that is to teach them, bring them what teamwork is, working together, and then jobs and learning how to, do things. But not only that, understanding service and service before self. And I've often said that. I said there wouldn't be anything wrong in my mind if we did that in America, that 2 years when you get out, before you go to college, before you go do this, because this will change your mind. This will change what's important to you, and you'll see life differently, right? So,
yes.
Anyway.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because we've had a lot of people come and talk about their careers and what it's like to be a Christian, and I think being in the military is kind of no different than any other career in the world. You have opportunities to let your light shine.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by people who don't have the same values as you, who don't have the same beliefs as you, and just as obviously it presents different challenges, like with being away and not being able to worship with the body. But thank goodness for things like online nowadays,
yes.
which I'm sure probably you didn't have.
Oh.
It wasn't a reality in the early 2000s.
No cell phones.
Yeah, like it is now.
Call collect home.
But that's a great perspective to I think that's quite translative to really any career that you go through. Is like you're going to be surrounded by people who, like you mentioned in the military, might have like an inclination to yearn for something. Like you said, when they go and they're by themselves, like there's a God-shaped hole in their heart.
That's right.
That He can fill and only He can fill. So it's our duty as Christians, be an example, point people to Jesus and things like that. So thank you for sharing about that.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that was beneficial for anyone who might think about that. I know we have many members here. Obviously, Austin is very involved in our classes, and he's not Air Force.
He's Coast Guard.
Yeah. No?
Army.
Army National Guard.
Where'd
yes.
the Air Force come from? The Army. Got it.
Yeah.
Our rich stepchild.
Yeah.
I got it.
What is your little quib that you have, like saving the country one note at a time or something?
Right.
Yeah. Talk to Austin about what he does. But thank you for sharing about that. I really appreciate that. And I guess that kind of answers my next question about advice giving to teenagers thinking about the military, what they should do to remain faithful. That hits the things that we're going to think about with that. So I want to transition gears a little bit with the time that we have left and talk about not only we talked about your career, but I want to talk about now your work and your faithfulness here at the church and your walk with the Lord. And I want to give you the opportunity to share how you serve here at Central. So what part do you play here in serving at the church that meets at Central?
Okay, I think you mentioned it, part of it anyway. Every week, I help select the guys that are going to preside over the Lord's Supper and do the announcements and make sure we have them there. And if somebody stand by in case something happens, those kind of things. And that's kind of a day-to-day routine thing I picked up 3 or 4 years ago. And then I've also taught adult Bible classes, for probably 10 to 15 years, right? So it's kind of cycles out. You'll go a couple of years without, but I'll do those. And then I guess, Ron Bussey calls it his Ron Bussey moving service, right? So I'm part of that, guys. When somebody, part of the congregation, you have people moving or need help moving and that kind of stuff, we help pack them up and get them moved and move down there. And then the service projects I've been on, I think there's probably been 3 in the last 3 years I was able to do. I was still working the first one, but the last 2 I've been retired. So I've been able to go to Kansas and help that church up there replace the windows and floors and ceilings.
PJ's parents.
PJ's parents. And then, of course, the one we did just a few weeks ago here with the Gill family. So I love, you can imagine taking part in those. And then lawn service, I call it, just being able to take care of some people's lawns that can't mow it or do whatever they got to do. And then picking up and dropping off, people that need to go appointments. And my wife does that probably more than I do. She's picking up these ladies and taking them to a doctor's appointment or doing whatever. But it's those kind of things. But it's serving the needs of the people and whoever needs help, helping them if we can. So.
That's wonderful, and I'm thankful that you were able to share that and let the teens know and everyone here know that serving and playing a part in the work of the church doesn't have to look traditional. I mean, most of us probably don't even think there is somebody who does the announcements. Like some of the young men who've been able to do announcements and preside on the Lord's Supper, it's your turn when Kevin comes up and talks to you. Hey, next week you got it. You better be here. And if you're not here, then I'm gonna have to just wing it. And sometimes you do. Yeah. And I don't know if people have noticed that, but I really appreciate that. You're always ready to. Whoever's here for the prayer, they don't show up. Kevin's close enough. He's ready to hop up. Or if Austin does singing, he'll just step in and pray. Things like that, or the men's mission. I love that you partake in that. I'm thankful that Central does something like that. The moving service, I think that's just like a rite of passage for men who retire. Yeah. Like I'm looking forward to whenever I get to retirement age and I can just not ever quit working because
if I could invert anything, that would be what I invert. I'd grab these young backs here versus us old guys, but you know how that goes.
Well, you have to next time Ron calls up somebody, then reach out to me and I'll see if I can
see if we get
round some of you guys up. But that's great, and I think the message to you guys is there are so many ways to serve in the church.
There is.
There are so many ways that there are needs to be met, and the congregation is just so active in so many things. And there's whatever your skill set is, we're going to actually get to have an entire quarter on this. Scott's working on that right now. It's our next quarter on Sunday mornings, talking about how you can serve, how you can fill in, how can you have a job in the Lord's kingdom, talking about being a good steward of the talents that God has blessed you with. And I think you're just a prime example. So I'm encouraged by you, and I hope that everyone is able to be encouraged as well and realize there's work to do with the church, and it's our responsibility to not just be a consumer,
Exactly.
but to come here ready to serve, be the hands and feet of Jesus in the body and also in the community. And I'm just really thankful that you play an important and integral role in so many things that.
Can I'll
Yeah.
say one more thing. I think it's probably would be the same for each of you, right? The more you do it, the more you want to do it. And it's kind of strange, but being able to help others is more beneficial to you than helping yourself, right? And that was remember I told you the first 35 years of my life, I was living for me based on the world stuff. And then I hit and switch at age 38. And now it's been, what can I do for everybody else? Because seeing them succeed and do well is more important than something I'm doing, right? And it's weird how that it switches. But as you do it, you see the benefit and you watch them. And I'll just say this, we did the service for the Gills, right? On the very last day, we're packing up to leave. There were 4 families that drove by, different ones. They stopped and said, man, hats off to you guys. This place looks tremendous, right? So it wasn't just the Gills.
People in the neighborhood?
The people in the neighborhood were like, and we told them who we were in the church up here and told them to stop in and said, man, we'd love to have you. But you see what I mean? It's your influence. You don't know it. You know, you're dirty and filthy and hurting and whatever, but they're like, man, you guys are awesome. And we're just like, you know how you are. You don't think of it that way, but it's just neat that other people see maybe what you don't while you're in the middle of it.
It's just a little seed.
Yep.
And it's actually great that you mentioned that, because I didn't know that, because the week after is when we had Mission More, and we did a ton of door knocking in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
All those streets down there, we handed out flyers, we talked to people. So maybe there was 2 seeds that were planted.
Yep.
The service that they were able to see you guys doing, and us coming back and saying, just, hey, here's an invitation. So that's really awesome. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. And kind of the next question that I want to ask is, what do you love most about the church? Because we want the teens to fall in love with the church. We want them to be faithful. We want them to always be a part of God's kingdom. So if you could, share with us what you love most about the church.
I actually talked to Pam about this before we did it. I said, the first thing you got to say is God. That's what you love most. He sent his son to die for you, right? So when you think about it in simple terms, you love the Lord thy God with all your heart and all your mind, all your soul and everything. There's no room to love anything else, right? I mean, that's what that's supposed to be. Then second, love your neighbors or your brothers, and especially those that are in Christ. So that's the big part of what we do. And as that shapes your heart, right, that's the love you are to have for God and for mankind. But the other part I love is the service stuff that we can do for others, right? That you have that ability. Or when we were involved in the tornado in 2013, right? So boy, churches all around the country, sending money and stuff here for those here who need help. So it's just being a part of something that is just so good, right? So it's that kind of stuff. And then of course it's the people. For me, it's the brothers and sisters that we have and the relationships that you guys are building now, you're going to have for the rest of your life, right? So it's those kind of things. And then, of course, it's just the ability that his church changes lives, saves people, right? So that's what I love about it. And, being where I'm from, not growing up and brought up in it, but being an outsider that's came into it, it's night and day. You can see it. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm reminded of what I think it was on Sunday morning. Colton mentioned the importance about the church, and it's like this has always been God's plan.
Yep.
So that's just a whole nother obviously what you've said about God being the best thing. Yes, we could spend all night just discussing how great that is. But and also God is so great, and this is his plan. This has been plan A. Everything was leading up to what we get to be a part of now. And as a result, there are so many great blessings.
It
I love
is.
what you said about service, and I kind of wanted to just mention one little thing about that because you've done a lot of service with the men's missions and things like that, and you were in the community here at Moore. And some of the things that we were able to partake in Mission Moore, like the people that we serve, we went to some schools, we did some service projects. A couple of the boys and I went to a lady's house that Justin Geary knew from school,
Oh yeah.
and she just needed some yard work. And if you think about why would we do that for free? Like, in the world would think that that's crazy to do something like that for somebody and expect nothing in return.
Right.
And that's what I love about the church is, like, good can be done in the world. People can be served, people can be helped, people can know that there is hope and that there is goodness in this world because the church is going about being the hands and feet of Jesus. So thank you for sharing that. I love that about the church too. And I hope that you guys see that. I hope that you see that and understand that there's no real goodness, there's no real hope in the world if it's not associated with God. If it's not associated with the kingdom, if it's not associated with God's people and the church, there's no hope. There might be false senses of hope. There might be shallow forms of it, fleeting pleasures. But if you want true belonging, we've talked about family a lot tonight and being a part of a family. If you want true hope, if you want to see and experience true goodness, genuine, pure of heart goodness, then it's found in the church.
Mhm.
And I hope that you guys take that with you. I hope that you see how that is lived out in someone's life like Kevin, and I hope that you can think about wanting that for your own life.
And I'd ask you, don't become frustrated with those that don't know, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't understand why they would act or say or do whatever they do, right? Because you're part of the church. You've been brought up in it. You've read God's word. You understand it, right? Well, they don't. They don't know,
Yeah.
right? So they're living by a standard that
Yeah. We can't judge them by our own standard.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
they
my
don't know.
point is, don't get frustrated with those guys. Bring them in, right?
what
And
Paul
be
says in
that
2 Corinthians
example
5,
and help
yeah.
them if you can.
Yeah.
And there's others, you're right. You just kind of steer around, walk away from them just because you're like, yep, whatever. But just understand that they're I'll just call it ignorance, but the fact that they don't know what you know, right? That's why it's your job to make sure they know what you know in those things.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The last question that I have, and then hopefully we'll have some time. We're actually doing good on time tonight. Open up for the teens
Okay.
to see if they have questions, or Mark usually has really good questions too, but they're kind of heavy hitters. So,
Oh yeah.
and this is a question that I've asked a few of our members or visitors that have come to be interviewed. And the reason why I ask it is we just finished up a couple months ago a quarter on when it's hard to be a Christian. We don't want to lie to our teens and think that the Christian life, while it might be an abundant life, it's not without persecution, difficulty, and trial.
Mhm.
And that's just the nature of life in general. And as a result, our faith can waver sometimes because of the things that happen in our life. So I wanted to ask some of the visitors that we have to talk about how they have gotten through struggles in life, because we know that they're going to come. They're going to look different, but we know that they're going to come. So how do we get through them? So I want to ask this question. When has your faith struggled the most? And how did you remain faithful through that period of life?
Yeah, there's probably a couple ways, but I think with most of us, it's loss, right? And when I say loss, my brother died of a massive heart attack walking out of his garage on Super Bowl Sunday in 2017. Right? He's a year older than me. Just boom, passed away. And that was hard because what did I know? That he wasn't a Christian, right? So that makes it very difficult on you. And the faith you have is knowing what? That God will do what he says, right? And his promises are there, but you also have the other side of that, right? That if they're not a Christian, you
God's
can
a
be
just God.
you can be certain, right, that he's going to be just. So those are the times, and I've lost, a few people over the years, and that's been part of it that made it. When you say in your faith, it's just those are the times when you're like you're just wishing and praying, right, that it wasn't that way, or it was something you could have said or done, right? Those are the things. So it's usually eats on you in that way. Another way is I lost that thought I had, but Oh, it was through work, right? So while I was working with Northrop Grumman, and I told Scott and a few others that I had some opportunities, right? And these opportunities were significant,
Mm-hmm.
and I was conflicted because if I'm already working, I'm going to say 100-hour weeks, whatever that is, more than 12 hours a day, right? And my bosses were on the West Coast, so if they wanted a meeting at 3 o'clock their time, it's 5 o'clock here. If it's 5 o'clock there, it's 7 o'clock here. So you're into
Mm-hmm.
that. But anyway, I was conflicted with, do I stay and take on this responsibility, which would be the betterment for the Air Force and for Northrop, to do that? Or is it time for me to say no? And the reason I'm saying no, because guess what that took me away from? Serving God, being part of the church, doing the things that I wanted to do. So that was where you're sitting here, you're conflicted. What do I do? Right? And those are times when your faith, you're sitting here going, and you're like, God, I know what you want me to do. This is really not even a question, right? But you're still struggle with it. Those are things. So it's a good thing. It would have been great for the family. It would have been great for whatever, financially, those kind of things. But guess what? It's not. It's not great for the church. It's not great for me as part of the church, right? So those are the things that I think you're going to struggle with. We all will, especially I would say from here, you graduate high school, you go either to college or you start working or trades or whatever it is you're going to do. And hopefully some of you are going to become preachers and do some of that because we need that. But those things, as you move on, you're going to come in conflict. And that conflict is, here's what I think I ought to be doing. Here's what I'd like to do. And then you've got this gap, right? And that gap is what I call conflict, right? So you're like, so in this mind, you're going to have to make a decision, and hopefully you'll always choose the Lord and the work of the church and those things over the other, right? And I say that, and those are tough decisions, right, for everybody. But those are part of it. But I tell you, losing family that are lost, right? Losing a grandmother who was a Christian for her whole life, and she's going to her reward is a celebration. Losing a grandmother that never stepped foot in the church and never read the Bible and didn't know of God, that's tragic, right? So that's that tragedy in the loss that way. And then the other is being conflicted in in life, right? And those job opportunities that you may want to take that would take you away from family and church, or even just the church. But it's, those are the things where it'll try you and it'll test you, and you're going to have to make the right decisions. But you find that stuff in here, right? Or you find that being around other Christians and conveying those things. We have our elders, of course, but you also have just other men and women in the congregation, or other kids your age, just people you can talk to about those things. But anyway.
Well, that's a great, thank you for sharing. And we're actually going to get to talk about kind of that serving two masters kind of thing that you just talked about on Bible class on Sunday morning. We're going through the Sermon on the Mount, what Jesus talks about, laying up for yourselves treasures on earth. It sounds like to me that was like an opportunity for you to like improve your career, like it would be great for your family and things like that. But I think it shows that there was a lot of wherewithal about your faith, like laying up treasures on earth versus in heaven. Like, what's the most important thing? What should I be serving and thinking about the best interest? Because in that same passage, Jesus talks about seek first the kingdom of God, and that seems like exactly what you did. But thank you for sharing that, because that's like I don't know if this is going to make sense, but like a good struggle. You're struggling for something good.
It is.
And
it's not to do something bad or evil. This is to do things that might better yourself and your family.
And that just shows the nature of humans, that we have to seek after our own desires and to progress ourselves. But there's also the reality of the greatest thing that I could do in my life is not be the CEO of the best company of a Fortune 500 company or something like that.
Now, Satan will tell you, hey, Kevin, that's more money you can give the church. That's what God wants you to do. See what I mean? So you can just spin and go and go. And that's the part where you need to stay grounded, and what's enough's enough, right? When is it? You got in your mind, as God tells you, don't lay up your treasure here on
Mhm.
earth. So when's enough enough?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a
When
good.
it's those things, and you're just gonna,
That's a good
because someday,
perspective.
and of course I was struggling that because I was becoming retirement age, right? You're getting up here where you're like, well, I can just walk away from all of this, or I'm gonna invest another 5 years, and oh,
Mhm.
by the way, that means this much more, right?
Mm.
So, but it starts when you get out of high school because you're gonna make a decision: do I want to chase dollars for hours, or do I want to do something? You know what I mean? And that's part of the conversation.
And the other thing you said too about losing someone who's um, not a believer is tough. I
It
think
is.
some of us have dealt with that. Probably many of us have dealt with that.
Mhm.
I had the privilege, but also the sad privilege of preaching the funeral for my late grandfather, who was
Mhm.
not a Christian, and it was tough. It was difficult. But that's why I said that we're so fortunate that we have hope.
Yep.
Um, think about what Paul says in First Thessalonians 4, talking about the dead in Christ will rise. Like we have this hope to look forward to, and I guess that needs to catalyze us and push us towards following after Jesus' ministry, seeking and saving the lost. Because we know people, we know people that are close to you in your own life that don't know the Lord.
Mhm.
And that's just a somber reality um, for all of us. So thank you for sharing that. With the short time that we have left, I'm interested to see if anyone has any questions they'd love to ask Kevin about his career, the military, his work in the church, his faith, anything. Um, what questions do you have of Kevin? I'm sure he would be more than willing to answer them. Josh?
I do have one. Go
Oh no, Josh, go ahead.
ahead. Kind of two parts. Where did you meet Pam, and how did she ask you to come to church?
Oh, very good. We met through I'll just call it a mutual friend, right? And then she was just basically telling me, on Sunday, I was like, hey, would you like it? She goes, no, I'm going to go to church. I said, oh, yeah, where do you go to church? It was kind of one of those. And then she invited me, and I said, sure, I'll go. Right. So it was like that.
Was there ever a time that you're like, maybe this isn't for me, as far as going to church?
Well, yeah, because you can imagine I hadn't gone, so I'm going and I'm listening to the singing. It's beautiful. Right? So you're sitting here going, wow. I hadn't heard that. I was like, this is really nice here. But it was I would say the people, right? That's what it's talking about, the friendliness of the congregation, but God's people, right? And to me, it seems like they were genuinely concerned about you. I'd walk in and I'd talk to Louis Casbaum or any of these elders would come up, hey, young man, how you doing, right? And I'm like, well, hello, I'm so-and-so, and I'm here with Pam, like that. And they're like, well, we're glad to have you. And so anyway, it kept me coming. And there was times, like I said, I was in the Air Force. I was traveled. I was working. Part of my job's different than most, right? I was working on aircraft that were severely damaged or had issues, so I would have to travel to go fix them and do stuff like that. So I was gone a lot. So I wasn't here. So that's why it took 4 years. And I know that sounds like a long time, but I just wasn't here. I wasn't committed to coming until the point when I was out of the Air Force. I was here, had a job, stayed right here, and that's all I did.
Yeah. Great question.
Actually, you were here because unless you're going to play on the softball team, you had to be at church.
I see.
That's why.
So they recruited me to play softball,
Yeah.
as they say. Anyway,
They can play softball pretty good.
I was just learning the game.
Do you have a question?
We already got the second buzzer this moment ago.
Oh.
You can ask him. You can. Please, I invite you guys to come up and talk to Kevin. He's amazing. He plays golf. If you guys want to play golf or talk to him about golf, talk to him about that. He is wonderful. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
I want to let you kids know something, just how proud I am of you, right? I have been here, like we said, since 1997, and you guys are one of the finest groups of kids we've had, okay? So, kudos to the parents as well, but to each of you for wanting to be a part in doing this. And several of you I've got to know over the years, so it's good to see you and have it. But it's been awesome. You guys are great, and I love what we're doing. And then same goes to you. Kudos to you. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Be
Thank
sure to
you
talk to
all.
Kevin after. Tell him thank you for coming in to visit with us. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate your wisdom and just your life story and sharing with us about career, personal faith, all these things. It was very encouraging. So let's not be late to the Devo. So let's get out of here and go to the auditorium. But be sure to talk to Kevin and tell him thank you.